I have to thank Deputy Taylor of the Tillamook County Sheriff's Department for breaking the silence and for walking across the blue line of bullshit. Let me show you when this was written. 6/19/2024. Yeah, I was held well over a year after this. You notice it's got my name, my inmate ID number, the date, my signature. Right here, it's even shown that filed Circuit Court, Tillamook County State Courts, July 29th, 2024 at 12:50 something p.m. Trial Court Administrator. They knew these things to be true. The courts, the Sheriff's Department, and of course, we've already got the evidence that the people at Tillamook Family Counseling Center, as well as at Care Incorporated, evidence from themselves shows that they also knew these things to be true, while they continued to pretend that they were delusions, continued to coordinate with one another to run me around in circles. See, mandatory reporting, that's one thing. Failure to report is only a misdemeanor. However, when the vulnerable adult that you failed to report abuse against ends up physically assaulted again, you are responsible. Now let's read this together. Deputy Taylor, I am treated like I am delusional over 4 things you can verify are true. 1. A&E Murder on the 21st, Season 1, Episode 1, from September 2023 exists. Number 2, Sword and Scale, Episodes 109 and 110 exist from January 2018. Number 3, both are true crime shows that reference me, my name, and my picture in connection to a murder I did not commit. Number 4, both shows are popular and widely distributed on the internet. I do want to state very specifically that Deputy Taylor, I did spend a lot of time speaking with him, and we spoke about autism awareness. Same thing with Deputy Donald James Jungling. We also spoke about victims' rights. Same thing with Deputy Moody as well. There's a lot of laws that I already knew that he came back to my cell and told me about. He was pretty cool about that, but he also very specifically stated that he's afraid of being retaliated against, and the same thing with Deputy Taylor. They both stated the term being retaliated against without technically retaliating, such as making an excuse to fire them, which happened more than once while I was in the jail with various deputies. When I tried to turn those deputies in, I was told they no longer worked there. That was their excuse for not taking it seriously. And not all of them, by the way, and most of those people came back to work there again. They didn't realize I was going to be there that long. They thought it was going to be an easy railroading. They were going to be able to pull the mentally ill thing, call me schizophrenic and delusional, and have somebody rubber stamp it. And unfortunately, Deputy Taylor put a fucking wrench in their gear. He crossed the blue line of bullshit. He crossed the false narrative. Instead of protecting his coworkers and lying, he wrote, I can confirm that both shows exist and use your name. You guys who are watching this, if you've looked up Natalie Bollinger, anybody could look this up. Deputy Taylor's assumption, the reason that he didn't come forward with this from the very start when he actually should have, is that he just assumed that because it's so easy to look up on the internet, that they would have done it already. Well, by the time they tried, people were dead. or they'd already committed a lot of crimes by assuming. So they had no choice. They didn't want to face criminal charges, especially since after being physically assaulted repeatedly because they didn't do their jobs, they didn't take it seriously, they didn't secure evidence, they didn't secure the safety of the victim. They allowed it to continue and in many cases encouraged it. Here in Tillamook, it was very specifically encouraged by law enforcement, and that's horrible. Deputy Taylor, let me read this. It's very important. I can confirm that both shows exist and use your name. I know the A&E special shows your face. However, I do not know if Sword and Scale does because it is a podcast. A&E is a popular channel, and Sword and Scale I believe to be popular as well within the true crime audiences. Um, Now, I never asked Deputy Taylor if he was autistic, but the way that he wrote that was very, how did Claire put it, sterile. The way that I would put it is that he was straightforward and direct and calculated in what he wrote. He wanted to make sure that it was factual. Do they actually show my face on the podcast? No, it's just a podcast. But the website for the podcast does. And it doesn't have to be on that podcast. He knows how popular this is. Now, because of this, their narrative, see what they want to do, like I said, when you try to turn in mandatory reporters to themselves. This is against the law, by the way. They can't make you do that, but repeatedly I have been forced to do so. Told that they're the only ones that I can go to, that I have to take it to their leader, so to speak. And they make excuses for each other and continue to pretend it's a delusion long after it's been proven that it's not. Deputy Taylor crossing the blue line of bullshit resulted in all five of my evaluators looking up Natalie Bollinger and realizing I was telling the truth. Realizing that it wasn't a delusion, that these officers had not been honest, that the people at TFCC had not been honest, that the people at CARE had not been honest. Now we've got the recordings with Russell that show that the picture that Miss Shelley, by her own admission, destroyed months ago. Well, by his admission, it had my face on it and was about Natalie Bollinger, which is evidence enough that they knew that it was true and continued with this narrative. See, because they're still not turning in this abuse. They want to say, oh, it's in the past. No, not in the past. Here's the thing. The reason they want to say it's in the past is because if it's investigated, it will be shown that they were told, they were informed, I was honest, and they just simply didn't care. They wanted to make a profit. They wanted me to come back again and again. TFCC and CARE, after the fact, coordinated with officers on the police force as well as deputies and the DA. Now, who am I supposed to turn in corruption to? All of these things, according to your Wikipedia, or sorry, not your Wikipedia, your internet, AI, the people that we're supposed to go to about that is the DA's office. Now, what do we know about the DA's office? Let's ask my telephone. Let me show you this. County officials initiate investigation into DA's office 4 days ago. Based on the investigation's findings, the county will take appropriate action in coordination with the elected district attorney. Now, why won't these people listen to me? Because these people who are there rubber stamps, keep trying to call me delusional. The fact is that the evidence shows I am not delusional. Deputy Taylor very specifically stated that these things are actually true. They are not delusions. TFCC was aware that they weren't delusions. CARE knew that they weren't delusions, and they sent me around in circles. Then these people at the Oregon Department of Health and Human Services, as well as Adult Protective Services, well, because of that gaslighting and, of course, what's the other one? Intentional misdiagnosis. That's a good one. Diagnoses by people unqualified. Now, I don't know what the legal charge for that one is, and I don't know the legal name for that, but it's happened so many times where they want their words, not my evidence, to show up in court. They want their words as police officers, as mandatory reporters who did not do their jobs. They want their words in court, but not my evidence. And by calling me mentally ill, they were able to repeatedly harm me. Now, I want to show you this. This is my protection order. It's a stalking protection order. It's against Andrew Wolnez. It has been in place for a very long time. I had a temporary one, and this is the permanent one. And I want you to read this part right here. This judgment is, the terms of this judgment are permanent. He's not to come into visual or physical presence of me. He's not to follow me. He's not to wait outside the home, property, place of work, or school. These are all things that he's violated nearly every single one of these, by the way. The other thing is the police have done exactly the same thing. What do they do when you try to turn them in? They antagonize the situation, treat you like you're schizophrenic, delusional, or on drugs. That's their MO, especially if you're a homeless male. So the videos, I'm literally showing you evidence that these things are true. I am showing you video evidence from Deputy Taylor, and this isn't all. There's also verification by Deputy Fenewald. There's also more verification, very specifically about the Natalie Bollinger thing, how long it's been going. There's also multiple deputies in there that were aware of the assaults. And Mary Palominos, one of my biggest bullies in there, 9 months she made my life hell. She was the linchpin, and then Deputy Enot, IHNAT. He was probably the worst in there towards people deemed quote-unquote mentally ill. Like, he would just badger and bully and thought it was hilarious. And, I remember one day he was aware that the toilets were overflowing in 2 of the cells. And if you flush the toilet in one cell, it would overflow into the other. So he went and intentionally flushed the toilet 3 times to make sure that a mentally ill disabled man, as they were calling him, he was an older gentleman, and I personally know him, by the way. I actually have a bunch of stuff written down about that particular instance because Deputy Enot made over 30 inappropriate comments. What happened is when he flushed the toilet, all of that nasty poop water came up, and it had floating turds still in it, came floating up into that man's cell. And instead of allowing him to clean it, or them cleaning it, Deputy Enot stood at that man's door and made fun of him. They made that man stand in that turd water for hours. This man was also exhibiting signs of dementia. And, of course, nobody is going to believe that man, are they? He's got dementia. He's exhibiting signs of dementia. And who's going to stick up for him? Who's going to speak up for him? It's kind of strange that the whole situation with me and Deputy Palominos, or Mary Palominos, I should say. She's technically a technician. Started with her and I having good jokes and getting along over the call button. And then she verified that Deputy Enoch did, in fact and indeed, chuck a spork at me, smacking me right in the chest with it. Now, the evidence and the cameras versus his story do not match. And we actually went over that with Deputy Taylor as well. See, this is multiple people verifying the things that I said, that there are more than one. There's also many that are in foreign languages. The Natalie Bollinger situation is a very big thing. And here's some more with Deputy Fenewald, and we'll make sure we get his name there, Deputy Fenewald. This one right here is 277. That's the badge number for Deputy Taylor. This one right here also, Fenewald. I've also got evidence verified from Deputies Moody and Fenewald regarding the telephone and how I was prevented from being able to contact or talk to my public defender. And the thing is that I'd fired her. I'd only fired one of my public defenders. One. And of course, I get the deputies coming to my door when I'm trying to turn in abuse. They're telling me to turn it into my attorney. My public defenders are telling me it's not their job. Well, attorneys are mandatory reporters. So did these attorneys push the mentally ill thing? Some of them did, and some of them did not. My last attorney did not. He wanted to make that money. If it hadn't been for the psychological evaluations repeatedly previously not going the way that public pretenders wanted it to go, because even in the situation where Herschel Brown, who's an attorney out of Portland, had his, as he said, close personal friend do an evaluation, which was heavily biased, but even heavily biased, she admitted that Natalie Bollinger's situation was true. That what these quote-unquote mental health people at TFCC were claiming, that it was a delusion, was absolutely wrong. So Judge Trevino repeatedly helped the DA out, using the mentally ill thing to prevent me from showing evidence, prevent me from turning in my predators. They just played head game after head game to deny you your rights. But Deputy Taylor, right here, stepped right through that. Deputy Fenewald as well as Chase Moody, who is another deputy. That's right. So with this evidence showing that they were aware, let's take a look at another piece. We get a dismissive response. This is on the kiosk, and they repeatedly would not allow me access or copies of a whole bunch of the stuff that I was trying to turn in. This is about my public defender's number, and Chase Moody, as well as Deputy Fenewald, were able to verify that this stuff had not been fixed. Deputy Palominos wrote, "Situation has been addressed." No, it hasn't. See, after I fired her, a month later, I got court, maybe a month and a half later, I don't know. I got court with this lady, and I had to explain that the telephone wasn't working and they hadn't fixed it. I was also trying to turn in that very same attorney, the one who I had had to fire. And I have written verification from witnesses about the situation. Here's a photocopy from one of the witnesses, Bradley Yukich. It says on January 13th, 2025, at around 2:45 p.m., I was locked in my cell when I Sorry, this is a photocopy and it's not very good. And I could hear someone talking, so I stepped something to the. God, I hate this. I really hate this. I could hear someone talking, so I stopped and walked to my cell door where I was able to see Sean Schwartz in the day room on the phone. Even though I was standing in my door for the remainder of his call and could hear him talking, he was not talking loud enough for me to hear what he was saying. Because of this, I am willing to say Sean Schwartz was not yelling on the phone call. So, yeah, I have the original here somewhere. There's just piles of paperwork, bags and bags of paperwork. I've already shown those. Um, this is a serious issue. But the other thing is that these predators know that I don't have a friend or family member. They know that public pretenders don't give a shit. It is an open joke for them that I can get an attorney when I get out. Police officers protect police officers. However, Deputy Moody, Deputy Taylor, and Deputy Fenwald all told the truth, at least in part, in some of these situations. This one is from Chase Moody. He verified in the pod that I did not have access to this number, which is the number to an attorney who lied to me and told me that she wasn't a mandatory reporter. That's right, we had a lot of issues. She also wanted to pretend that I yelled at her on the phone, which Bradley Yukich knows otherwise. Don't get me wrong, I did yell at attorneys on the phone. But I asked him very specific questions. Some of them he didn't answer, but he did verify that I was unable to contact that number from any available device. And then let's look at the days on it. This is from 131, and I had them verify it repeatedly, by the way. And that's Deputy Chase Moody on 131-25. He actually replied quickly. About this one, Deputy Fenwald, can you verify the phone number? So, and you can read the phone number there. It says, is still restricted on my chirping device, text, as well as on Unit 300 telephone, please and thank you. And he wrote, I can verify that the listed number above is still restricted on your chirp and on the unit phone. Now, this attorney's name is Marina Spencer, and she's actually out of Washington State. And I was unable to contact her. I had to use my own money because they didn't have a contact number that I could contact her at where it didn't cost me my money. This is another thing where they're literally doing everything they can to make it impossible to get something done quickly. I mean, by the time that speedy trial is around, if they haven't set up your phones by then, well, there's a major issue. And they kept on denying my right to a speedy trial by claiming that I was mentally ill, calling me delusional, saying I was unable to aid and assist. And of course, both Chase Moody and Deputy Fenwald verified, and here's how they verified it. I showed them on my chirping device that the number was restricted. I also made the telephone call to this number in front of them and handed them the phone, and they verified in person instead of assuming, instead of lying. Well, they verified the truth through some actual legwork. Why is it that these guys are the ones who are the babysitters in the jail and the crooks are out on the streets? Don't get me wrong, they're all still cops, and they will all still break the law because they don't want to get fired. They don't want that reputation. I know especially for Deputy Taylor and for Deputy Fenwald, they both want to help people and they want to investigate actual crimes. That's the reason that they're doing this. If having a crooked sheriff and a crooked lieutenant running the jail means that they got to suck it up and break the law. Well, it's unfortunate that that's actually the case, because there are charges that go along with this. So here's what we're working with. The mandatory reporter laws. It's not just failure to report. These people took an active role in the abuse. They took an active role in covering up the crimes of their coworkers. At least Deputy Fenewald, Deputy Moody, and number 277, that's Deputy Taylor, crossed the blue line of bullshit. Deputy Taylor and Deputy Fenewald already knew about the Natalie Bollinger situation right from the start. Deputy Taylor follows true crime, and Deputy Fenewald told me that when he was in high school, that's how long ago this was. This guy's a deputy now. When he was in high school, he was watching that stuff on his phone. So these people were aware. You can see by the dates that they were made aware over a year before they continued to try to pretend that it's a delusion when they finally allowed me a trial. And the DA didn't care. He just kept on pushing the delusion thing. I've been to the DA's office to turn in these crimes before. I was threatened with arrest. I was bullied. And then, of course, the victims' rights advocacy is literally the same office. And when I had to talk to the victims' rights people repeatedly alone, I was bullied by the DA. This goes back for years, going all the way back to 22, because I had to try to turn in the deputies and the police in this town for crimes committed, such as Deputy Reeves assaulting a 13-year-old girl in the Safeway parking lot. You know, these people wanted to assume I was delusional, and when it turns out that they were wrong, they wanted to continue to push the delusional thing. And they found rubber stamps, and this is a technical term, just so you know. This doesn't mean a literal rubber stamp. But they found people that they thought, hey, we can convince this person who has also broken the law in the same way. We'll convince them to pretend that he's delusional. We'll convince their coworkers who have also taken part in this already, who Sean is trying to turn in, and we will pretend that he's delusional. We will try to force situations where we can pretend that he's delusional. This is not okay. This is what happens when you force victims to go to their predators for help. These are mandatory reporters, and what they did is predatory. Thank goodness for Deputy Fenewald, Deputy Moody, and Deputy Taylor.